Hey, sports fans! Coach Nick here, and welcome to the B-Ball Breakdown live show coming at you on a Tuesday morning with Combo as always. It's been a minute since we've been together, but great to see you, Combo. Great to see everybody out there. What's happening, my man?
All is well. It's great to be back. I can't wait for this NBA season to start so we could talk more and more and more and more and more basketball because there's not a lot of basketball going on right now, except if you like, Rico Hines pickup runs or stuff like that, which is pretty cool, I guess.
I haven't seen, those always bubble up on my Twitter feed. I haven't seen any of the Rico Hines stuff. In fact, I probably should go over there and watch him in person.
Yeah, you're right there. Why wouldn't you? It's always good pickup over there. I think I actually noticed I think I was watching with the volume off. I kind of figured it out while it was happening. Like a full team of UCLA players beat I think Harden and a few other guys in pickup. It was pretty funny because they got hyped after they won, and I saw them running around. It was funny.
Yeah, well, it just goes to show you that those guys are good.
Oh yes,
one players can really play.
And also, in pickup, anybody could literally beat anybody, especially when they're short games. You make a few twos or threes or whatever you're playing with, and anybody could really win in those very short pickup games.
Absolutely, for sure. So yeah, I'll have to figure that out. I have to get the schedule, figure out when they're there. They're probably there all day. And then let's see. So what's up, everybody, in the comments? Questions are always very welcome. If the best way to get them answered on the screen would be super chat on the YouTube side. So feel free to head over there. That really helps us keep this show going. The worst offseason probably of all time in the NBA in terms of deals and trades and free agency signings. Like nothing really happened.
No, PG-13, Mikal Bridges.
That's about it.
Steph extends. I guess that's not super fun, even though it's fun for him probably.
Trades, it's really.
No, iHeart and Caruso. I guess we went. I guess we went over all of it, most of it already.
Yeah, I guess those are okay. But certainly not a lot to do content. I'm now down to most annoying players of all time in the NBA, which I will get to this week. And I got a really cool one I want to do, focusing on the last few. We've had a couple of players who have been on multiple championship teams over the last 4 years, and I want to spotlight that and why there's the common denominator between these two. And you can probably figure out who I'm talking about, but they play the same position, and they've been on two players on 4 different championships.
Well, one of them definitely comes to mind, and I wanted to pull up an old quote from myself saying that Drew Holiday was the most underrated player in the NBA when he was playing with New Orleans. And since then, he's won 2 championships and 1 Olympic gold medal.
Yeah, he's that guy that you need. And then you throw one, the Warriors snuck in there on one of those with, even like Klay Thompson, sort of in the same position as well, playing that. And so, or you can even maybe argue that, maybe Jordan Poole sort of filled that role too, but he didn't play the defense. But at any rate, you have KCP and you have Drew Holiday, 2 guys who, play defense. They can shoot. They can make as a secondary playmaker for them. It's really important to have that.
KCP is a winner, man. That guy's a winner. He fills all the gaps that you need around star players.
Yeah.
He could shoot the 3. He could defend.
He was about to get traded from the Lakers when Luke Walton was coaching. Do you remember that whole debacle?
Vaguely, what happened? Tell me more.
I think he wasn't happy with playing time and was coming off the court, and Luke Walton kind of went to give him a high five or whatever, and he ignored him, and it got really toxic for a little while there. And then they changed Luke up and then brought in Vogel, and then CP3 became a starter. So that was an interesting turn of events.
Yeah, in basketball, Coach Nick, there's always times throughout the course of the season when the players and coaches aren't getting along. That probably happens on every team. Do you think it's really magnified in the NBA, and at times it doesn't mean as much as it seems?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, and I think on a LeBron team, it gets magnified even more. You can remember Russ, kind of going up. There's that shot of him going up on the bench saying, basically, it's hey, guys, I don't want to leave. I don't want to be traded. But you can kind of tell that LeBron had already decided that this wasn't working and we have to move on. So with LeBron, there's another level to that, I think, as well, and I think to his credit, he doesn't really want, any extra drama, right? He wants everything to be pretty smooth around him. So, which is a good thing. So when it bubbles up like that, you kind of get a sense that the tide could turn against the player pretty quickly. So I was surprised that he was able to persevere through that. KCP was, and then not only remain on the team, but then become, probably their 3rd best player on that championship team in the bubble, wouldn't you say?
Kuzma was in the bubble, right?
Yeah, it was Kuzma, and you had and Alex Caruso.
Yeah, I would say Kuzma might have been their third player. No, was it KCP? What do you think?
Yeah, it was close. It was close, but KCP was doing some really good work.
Nobody thinks of Kuzma as world champion Kuzma, right, anymore.
He's got a ring. Man.
Yeah, he got a ring. What could you do as a third or fourth guy? I mean, that's pretty impressive. That's good. That's very good.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's get to our first super chat. As always, we have Bron out there, who is best friend of the breakdown, godfather of the breakdown. Thank you so much from Canada. And they ask, PG mentioned on his pod how he's improved his three-point shot with weighted basketballs. You guys do this as well. PG had a ton of shoulder injuries.
Well, I mean, I've tried everything over the course of my career, and that's probably one thing I have done in the past. But, after filtering through on what works and what doesn't work, I don't think it's super ideal. But, I'm always open to, trying things and doing different things. But I don't know if it's that beneficial, to be honest. I think there's ways that you could tweak your jump shot without shooting weighted balls that will give you more bang for your buck.
Well, let me tell you, Combo. When we talk about our variability training, there's a fly in here. God darn it all. I get it. We talk about variability training, and so that means we try and change up all aspects of the jump shot. And it's a little bit like we talked about this before. I think when you put a bat a weight on the bat when you're in the on deck circle, and then you take the weight off, and the bat just feels awesome. So we kind of put weight on the shot, proverbially, and then we take it off, and you can kind of get back to feeling awesome. Or sometimes we discover that the things that we're changing end up being a lot better for them than what their natural shot was. And we would never have found that out if we were trying to drill like the Klay Thompson perfect form. So I use a big ball, and that's huge. A big ball is huge. It barely goes in the rim. That really helps. And so weighted ball would just be another extension of that. So I think it'd be very helpful.
And they've had that big basketball for years. I remember when I was a kid, there was somebody in the gym shooting with one of those really big basketballs. That's been around like for a while. So, and also I do remember they had one thing that made the rim smaller. Yeah. When I was younger. Which one do you like better?
So that's another interesting thing, because obviously the bigger ball is not simulating the game exactly the way you'd want to, as is that weighted ball. But it's okay, because the nervous system needs to be disrupted enough, like to do something with the motion is the similar thing, but the parameters are changing if it's the weight or the size. So I don't mind that at all, because again, then you give them the regular ball and it's like, oh, this just feels amazing. There's a mental aspect of the training of that makes it open up. Now, we had a coach on, or I actually had a coach who's doing the chase defense. So, I invented this defense, the chase defense. I've done 100 Zooms across the world with coaches at all levels, all over the place. And, and during the Zoom of the clinic of showing them that, we'll get into conversation sometimes. And so one coach was telling me that he installed these things on the rim that made it, the ball could barely get through when it goes in. And his shooting percentage for the team for both free throws and threes off the charts better using it. So I'm really intrigued. In fact, they had a whole court that's like a practice court that they don't use for the games. So he installed these things permanently on those rims. So it's the only way they can score is by really, getting it right in the basket. So he said that it was immeasurable how beneficial that was to the team shooting. So I think that's powerful.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, I used to do all kinds of things to improve my game. I remember watching the movie Rebound with Earl Manigault, and he used to walk around with ankle weights. So I used to do that to school as well. It's kind of like the weighted bat thing, right? Like put some ankle weights on, you walk around all day, you take them off, you feel super light. I don't know if it actually made me faster or quicker, but it was fun.
Yeah, no, for sure. You're going to strengthen your hip flexors and your legs. It's like that'll really help. But again, what you're getting to is the mental aspect of it as well, where when you disrupt that and then get back to like the normal version of it, it does feel better and you might feel faster. That's really important. So it does help to unlock a lot of things. So certainly ankle weights are great. All those things are great. When I'm talking about varying the thing we talk about, I might have them do an arm swing up across the left side and then shoot it up across the right, big dip, small dip, medium dip, arc, everything, anything you can imagine that you can alter. We do and explore, and then sometimes we find out that it's better. That's how I came up with the right left. So like on kickouts for a righty, we started exploring right left footwork, and it might be better, honestly. As a
wait, you're saying going right left might be better?
No, just even like on a spot up, like from a kick out from an offensive rebound, and it comes out like everyone's going to go left right for a righty, or you would go the opposite because you're a lefty. there is a natural sense of that where your strong foot is coming forward to plant and jump. But when you anchor the shooting foot first, and then the other foot plants behind you a little bit, so you have that alignment proper. There's something about getting your alignment that doesn't that gets locked in. There's no extra rotation perhaps in the air, which I think a lot of shooters have responded to, and I showed it to them.
It's funny, when I was younger, I used to have to do everything I did on the right with the left. So I would shoot shots with, like, if I did left, right 5 times, I would do it right, left.
Yeah.
The other 5 times. But now when I work on my game, even though I'm not playing at a serious level anymore, I bake in more creativity. Like, I don't have to do exactly what I did on my right, on my left, if I'm just like feeling in the flow. So yeah, but I mean, I used to do all that. I think it's important to like vary what you do.
Oh yeah, for sure. That way you're prepared, because again, the way we shoot threes now and the way the game moves, you need to be prepared for any version of any kind of thing, depending on the defense and where your feet are and your balance. So it's important to do that. And we always say, as a coach, you didn't want to take a shot in the game that you hadn't practiced a whole lot. Well, part of that variability training now will address some of that stuff. So we found that it's not like you have to do an endless groove of just in place the same shot over and over again, but just touching upon it here and there is enough to help your nervous system handle that and say, oh, I did do this. It might have only been like 5 times, but I remember that, versus, the old school coach would have been like, you have to do that 1,000 shots before I let you shoot that in the game. You know what I mean? Something crazy like that. And there's better, more efficient ways to get there without having to do that.
Oh yeah. And another thing is like, with coaches, if they say you need to take 1,000 of those for you to take it, I think it's more important to say you have to make them consistently while we're in games and practice to take that.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it has to be transferable. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter the work. It matters the result in a lot of ways when we're talking about if we're going to allow that guy to shoot that shot in the game, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And then you have to wonder about, like, the result-based, assessment, because obviously it's like, oh, if he makes the shot, then are you saying to yourself, oh, okay, well, I guess you should shoot.
Well, the thing is, you have to do it over the course of time. I remember playing overseas, like every time something went right, it was great, and every time something went wrong, it was the worst thing ever. And to kind of like contradict my last point is, like, you cannot coach play to play, result to result. Like, the results over time, yes, I think that's a good thing to learn from. But every single play, it's like, no, sometimes you did everything right and the basketball didn't go in the basket, Yeah.
And then, by the way, a lot of times what I assess, it would be like, is it in and out? Was it straight? Was it like, was it a good shot that, like, just kind of missed for whatever reason, versus are you slamming off the backboard? And that becomes another level to that, how you want to assess that. Because I mean, I can remember, there's times when I think one player would be upset that I say, that wasn't a good shot, when the guy another player shot a similar shot and I didn't say anything. But, there's all manner of input to that, where it could be time and score as well. And then, was it a tougher shot, but was it out of our offense? That's fine, versus an ISO that's sort of random and not. And then in a similarly tough shot, that's not a great shot either. And again, that's the burden of the coach to figure out how to communicate that and keep everybody on the same page without getting them too upset. I did see in the comments, Justin G had an interesting thing about Derek White. I'm kind of calling it up right now. I want to see. He said that there's an improvement in the 3-point shooting, which is true. He shot 396, 39.6% last year on the highest volume of his career. And he's surmising that there's something connected to him fouling the ball with his eyes, as if maybe he didn't do that before. Now, I'm sure we've had this discussion, right, about the eye gaze.
Yeah, you're more into that than I am. Like, I don't have any data, or like, I never really thought about it too hard, like what that means for the shooter.
Yeah. I mean, the interesting thing is, when it's out of your hand, what does it matter what you do? But it does. And I would defy anybody to go on the court and shoot 10 shots staring at the rim only and then follow the ball. Everyone's going to say it's a different shot. It feels different. That's the mental aspect of it, right? And certainly I use it now as one of my things in my bag. Like, just as much as I'd use a dip or a turn or whatever, I use the eye gaze if we're looking for it, we need it. But it is a different shot. Like, I don't think you're not going to find more than one person out of 100 who would say, oh, it's the same. And I think that's the testament to how much of the mental aspect that is. And for me, it actually just feels like when I know I'm going to follow the shot with my eyes, I become a little bit more hyper aware of what my body is doing here versus casting my focus on an object that's 25, 30 feet away. I'm not in the moment as much with my mechanics. And again, it's the mental part of it, but it does feel better to kind of be like, oh, there's my hip, there's my elbow, there's my wrist, boom, I'm looking up. And we know that some of the best shooters of all time, like Steve Kerr, would look at the ball before it was out of their hand. Harden, we've caught him doing that, where the ball is still in his hand and he's already looking up. So there's all manner of ways to vary that as well. When you look, how long you look, do you go back to the ball, all sorts of stuff.
What was Bird? What did Bird do?
Bird fouled the ball.
Yeah, it seemed like when you did that shot where you looked up, it kind of like reminded me of Bird.
Yeah, and you have these coaches who'll say, oh, their head snaps back, they lose balance. I've never seen that. Honestly, anybody who naturally does it, I've never seen it. And the people who do it like that, it's natural. No one is taught that. I mean, as far as I know, I'm the only guy that teaches it. Maybe people have heard it and have implemented, I hope. But at least up until whenever I was doing this publicly, I don't think anyone had you ever come across a coach that would suggest following the ball with their eyes?
No, most coaches would say like focus on this part of the rim, focus in the middle, focus. Yeah, no, I haven't heard a lot of coaches say that. Nope.
Right. So it's interesting because those shooters that get really good, Reggie Miller, Steve Kerr, Michael Jordan, all those guys and Bird who fouled the ball, they're doing it in defiance of the coach, right? The coaches, I'm sure, I'm telling you, having grown up in the 80s, like that's how we taught it. And that was how it was taught. You better keep your eyes on the rim. So those guys that got really good were actually kind of ignoring what the coaching was, at least for that part of it. And it might also explain why they were able to like turn their feet and not be square to the basket, which is, again, not how most of the great shooters do it. So it was this weird thing where, and I guess it's related to the gym rats who are by themselves away from the bad coaching, develop the techniques that allow them to be a great shooter. And that's the point. It's almost like in spite of what the coaches were doing, they became great.
Yeah, I think thinking outside the box is important, right? To try things that maybe people are telling you is so-called wrong. It might be right for you too. And also different things work for different people.
Yeah.
So
I will say that the rhythm things that I groove, that's the one thing that tends to be universal. And when we're synchronizing the arms and the legs.
The eye following the basketball seems to be your eyes following the basketball seems to be universal?
No. The universal thing for me would be the rhythm. When we're talking about the rhythm of.
Like I know some people call it sequencing, but it's like, I think the ball should be going in one fluid motion. That is definitely something that is important.
Yeah, and then there's details for that in terms of the ball height versus when the knees are straightening, all the things that I look at. And really seem to help. And again, it makes it effortless, and that's what we want. We want an effortless shot, and we can now get farther back, and then more space and more room. So those are all really important things to be able to look at. But again, it's it's also a personality type, I suppose. It's like I'm always out of the box and trying to look at things in different ways, which helps me communicate with everybody, right, in different ways. And other coaches don't have that personality, and it makes it a little bit harder. But, just like everybody, you find mechanisms to help you overcome whatever issues you might have communication wise. And if you don't develop them, then you're just a frustrated coach your whole career, which I think you probably are familiar with some of those, right?
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, I had some interesting coaches over the course of time.
Yeah.
I guess, especially growing up, some of them would be considered toxic today.
Yeah. And it's probably born out of a little bit of the frustration that they just sense that they're not, they have one way to do it, and they know that half the players are not going to respond the way they want to. And it's frustrating because they assume that it's the players, and it's whether or not it is or not. It's like, if you want to remain frustrated and have conniptions all the time and get all red in the face and ball your fist up and get mad, well, then that's what's going to happen. But if you want to adjust your coaching, then you can probably find spaces there where you don't need to do that, and you'll probably live longer. The way I see some of these coaches, the way they the rage and the stress, that's got to be not good for the health.
Yeah, I think more and more players are becoming player coaches, right, over the course of time.
I don't know if there's any more. There's always been a bunch, right? In theory, that's a natural.
Okay.
I'm actually, helping a high school team this year. I'm kind of an assistant coach.
Oh, nice. That's good, man.
Yeah, they're gonna let me put in the offense, I think. So I'm doing some 5 out, and I got to tell you, it's like I don't know in LA as much if they've embraced 5 out modern, shot distribution like other places might have in the country. And the team might not even be the most talented, but I think there's a way to exploit this here. in their league and actually hurt a lot of teams. I mean, I'm envisioning it. We'll see, but I'm excited to try and get their like the 3-point frequency to get over 40.
Do you like the idea of total 5 out, or the idea of 4 out, but a big that doesn't really post, he just rim runs, or like so like there's like some rim gravity, if you will.
Great question. Well, so what I would want to do would be so I like 5 out, but I want to also run the low post splits that you would see the Warriors. So with that in mind, you got to fill the low post so you can then set those split screens on the outside and then slip to the basket and flare and all those things. So you need to, because it's, again, you want to penetrate the defense. And the one way to do it, obviously, is a crazy dribble move and you get to the block and you're shooting the layup or whatever, kicking it out. Well, an easier version of that is to throw it down to the post. It's like, a way to get a penetration.
Yeah, especially if you're playing against a good defensive team that's just going to shell up and wall up on you and be ready, right? Like you definitely want some rim pressure.
So
rim pressure without you having to penetrate, like off the ball rim pressure is a better way to put it.
And then you want them to run organic offense where you don't have to call sets every single time down. Like, if there's a timeout or a stoppage of play, you can call something that floppy or whatever you want to run. But for the most part, you want it to be space and flow. So that's also hard because when is the guy going to fill the low post and who is going to fill the low post? Because it could be anybody. You can have your point guard go down there and throw it to them, and then they can facilitate out of that with handoffs or kickouts or whatever. So it's like, how do you then get them to do that and not either manipulate it or take advantage of it in a selfish way? That's always a fear. But I got to tell you, I went there last week for like the tryout. And I showed them get action, where you pass it and you follow the ball for the handoff back or the fake handoff. And then I showed them pistol, which would be the version I showed them was handoff into ball screen. And I got to tell you, we got that down with no defense. And then I put defense on and made it live 3-on-3 and then 4-on-4. And I got to tell you, on half the possessions, it looked like Princeton offense. Having those group of players had never really played together before. They certainly hadn't gone over a pistol action before. And I got to tell you, like the handoff, ball screen, turn that corner, boom, this pocket pass layup, or like turn the corner, boom, kick three. It was remarkable how just the slightest bit of an action that's organized like that, and specifically the get and pistol, opens up everything, and they were playing like a team. They were willing to share the ball. They were moving it. So I'm excited about being able to develop that out of that. And if you have any other, suggestions, I'm all ears.
Yeah, no, I think that all makes sense. I think teams, you have to play with a certain amount of continuity, especially these days. We see it in the NBA, right? Like, I mean, continuity is winning now. It's no more about like bringing in star players. It's about like the Knicks, how the Knicks are doing it, right? You're doubling down on chemistry and continuity.
Well, that's
and also, I was just actually reading a book called Hidden Potential by Adam Grant, and he talks about how like one bad apple could change everything.
That's interesting, right? And it's not like you want to just sort of dismiss that and cut them from the team or get rid of them, whatever. Because a lot of times you think there's a way to reach them too, right? There tends to be a method for everybody, but
I mean, in a business, we might not have time for that, though, Coach Nick. We might not have time for that.
Yeah, I can remember. Yeah, when I was coaching, I had a kid who joined, way late in the season because he was playing football first, and he had just gotten there as a senior and transferred in. So it's like I didn't have any tools to assess how to communicate with him better than I had to just tell him. I'm like, I have to tell you now exactly what you need to do versus me, having games or a season or whatever. It's like, have him discover it. Because, if the guy takes a couple of terrible shots that are slamming off the backboard and he turns it over, he kind of starts to figure that out a little bit on their own, right? You don't need to necessarily yell at them too much, unless it becomes a thing. And I wasn't getting anywhere that way in a short time frame on that one season. And I remember having to be just as blunt as possible. And it didn't go great at all. But sometimes you don't have that time. You're right, especially in the NBA. But yeah. So then we talk about that chemistry. It's like, are you going to flare? Are you going to curl? Are you going to pop? And and then the more familiar you are with that when you have the ball, the earlier you can throw the pass, right? So it's even more on time or when they're open.
Familiar is the right word. And I just mentioned the Knicks. I mean, what is this going to look like when you bring in a Mikal Bridges? It feels like, sometimes things don't go the way you think they are, but it feels like this really can't go too wrong if everybody stays healthy. Like bringing in a guy that talented around players that he's so familiar with. Actually, the real for the Knicks, the real question is like, how does Julius Randle fit into all this? I guess that's the real question.
And that was in the news. I just saw a report, and I don't see it now. Someone was talking about how good of a trade, bait he could be. They have first rounders, and then someone wanted to try to make it seem like his salary was really beneficial to be traded. But we've been talking about how high it was and how it makes it harder to do that. But it's kind of floating back up there. Again, I've been saying this for how many years now, that he should have been traded then. But I don't think it works. I think that they could shore up a couple things without him, like maybe get another big man, rim protector, shot blocker kind of guy, or something like that to replace Hartenstein.
Yeah, it's like if you're gonna trade Julius Randle, I mean, you want to bring in somebody really good though, even if it fits better. I don't think you want to bring in like an average rim running big, right?
Well, right. Well, because of the salary is so large, it makes it really hard to bring in like 3 players for one, right? That makes the rosters get all tilted. It's hard. So that might not be right. So as a result, you're going to try and find a good player who's got a high salary, right? But I don't know. There isn't any big men I can picture, right? That has that, right? That's available at least.
Yeah, I mean, look, probably Miles Turner would be great, but the Pacers don't want to trade Miles Turner for Julius Randle. I mean, Miles Turner fits way better with Tyrese Halliburton and the rest of that team than Julius Randle does. Whoever you think is the better player,
Yeah, I mean, listen, Miles Turner shoots threes, he blocks shots, he grabs rebounds, he plays defense.
He could play above the rim too. He's athletic. He's good, man. Like not only is he super talented, he fits the modern NBA perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
That's what you'd want.
I don't know. Like maybe in the comment section they could tell us like what would be a trade that would make sense not only for the Knicks but for the team you're trading Julius Randle for. Or do they think in the comment section that the Knicks shouldn't even trade him?
Yeah, throw it up there, guys. I'll put up on the screen even if you come up with a good idea for who they could trade for. I mean, maybe you could do it with 2 players. Maybe I think he's making like $37 million or something like that. So maybe you find a guy who's making 18 and 17 or whatever. Two players at that level that could work, and they Knicks throw a first rounder in there for him. You can kind of just make everything work better. Because again, remember, it's a little bit mentally exhausting to have Julius Randle because he just gets in a funk, and it kind of makes everybody a little bit, it's just sort of the clouds come over everybody, and it kind of makes it less fun, and there's no joy. Now he could do it himself and keep himself motivated.
So how sure? Just to play devil's advocate, how sure are we about that? Like, we're not in the locker room. I mean, I don't know. Like, is there really a dark cloud around it?
I think that there are a lot of times when he goes into these funks mentally where he's just like down and upset and everything's bothering him.
You're reading body language by the end.
Body language, yeah. I think that's part of it. And by the way, like Tibbs doesn't help with that either. Really, he's not. To get him to smile about anything is insane. Forget about it.
Actually, on the pod, he was smiling a lot. I found that interesting. He did a pod with
Is this his best team?
Is this his best team?
Yeah.
And those Bulls teams are really good.
Yeah, but they were flawed, right?
You know what? The crazy thing is like there's really not too many flaws on this Knicks team.
All right, I got to do that as a. I'm going to log in. Let's do a poll.
I'm trying. Oh, I know the flaw.
What?
Backup big man.
Right now?
Yeah, for the playoffs, like in the regular season, you'll be fine, but you need bigs on the bench, right? This is an insurance policy, especially with Mitch because he's not always been the healthiest over the course of time. So I think that's their biggest weakness, like just depth in terms of size off the bench.
Absolutely. Wait, I'm gonna make sure. I'm sorry. I'm gonna do a. Let's get back to that. But I'm gonna do a poll. But where's the damn poll? Isn't it? I'm on the chat. Am I logged in?
I don't know. I'm fully locked into this conversation. I'm on the phone today, so
I
can't see anything. I can't see anything.
Add emotions, show support. Oh, here. Poll. Start a poll. Is this Tibbs' best team? Are you guys ready? Here it comes. Is this Tibbs' best team ever?
Tibbs is.
No, start poll. Okay.
Tibbs is.
Should I do a poll on Twitter too?
Yeah, that's interesting. Tag me. I'll repost it.
All right. Here we go. We got about 5 more minutes with you. Let's do this. Yeah. So is this Knicks team? You get to see me team the best. No, is this the best team Tibbs has ever coached? And then poll, yes, no, yes, no. All right, let's just do that. Here we go. Oh, I didn't tag you. Oh well.
All good. No worries.
You can see it anyway. So I don't know. So here's the question: if it is their best team and they're playing really well and they're playing the way he wants them to, which they should because they got the whole Villanova thing, then maybe he will smile more. Maybe he will be able to find a mode of that's not just bellowing and barking and sour and demanding, right? Like maybe they can unlock some things from him.
Oh, from Julius Randle?
Well, either from Julius Randle or from Tibbs himself. Maybe Tibbs. So maybe Tibbs would find body language, and then maybe that
I could see.
the team.
I could actually see. Maybe the podcast was a start of that. Maybe I could see like if it's really good vibes in the beginning, I could see Tibbs cracking a few smiles. Like if they go on some kind of like crazy winning streak in the beginning, if Mikal Bridges like kind of fills in how we think he will,
yeah,
and everything's just. I mean, like if Mikal Bridges fits in really nicely, like we think he will. I mean, man, and they stay healthy. I don't know, man. I think they're better than the Celtics.
Yeah, that's a good video. By the way, here's Ron. I think Walker Kessler could probably be what the Knicks would need. That would be a good call. And the Jazz, they want to have to pay him. So yeah, that's a good call for what they could get there.
I watched his body language. I think it was Summer League, and it was like he was playing really well. I don't know if it's just personality, but he looked like he didn't want to be there. Like he was making all the right plays, but he was like the whole time. It was just like I was just reading it.
Walker Kessler was doing that in Summer League?
Yeah. Like it was just there was something off about it. I don't know.
Well, he probably felt like he's like, why am I even doing this?
100%.
He's proved himself. Yeah. He doesn't have to play Summer League, but sometimes you might do that just to keep in shape, and you want to be, get some good runs. But if that's the case, then you probably wouldn't have seen what you were seeing. So in my mind, it was because you're like, hey, you got to do. We really want you to do this.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean that makes sense. He feels like he's not going to get paid, and then you're making me report to Summer League. I mean, I guess that's like a double doozy.
That's interesting, right? Which is funny because I was watching Will Hardy go over his 5-out in preparation for how I want to install for this 5-out offense for the high school side, and it's interesting. He's got. Have you ever been around Will Hardy?
No.
He's got an interesting rhythm. He's got a radio voice, man. It's silky smooth.
Oh, we got to get him. We got to get him on the show. We're on.
Yeah, we might. Maybe we can. But so there's something to that, right? Because when you have a voice that isn't, that's what you're communicating with. That's what allows you to convince people to do things, right? You got to be able to have a way of doing that. And his voice is just like I got to tell you, he could be a DJ. He's got that really like a baritone, smooth. That's what struck me probably the most of anything else. Stuff that you talked about basketball was pretty good at coaching you that I saw, but it's interesting only because also when you're watching all the NBA teams run their 5-out now, it is very similar. I think that's what I'm wondering about as far as the fan response to watching these games is, are they sensing that there's a similarity between teams now on offense that might kind of take away the creativity that we're so used to seeing.
Yeah. Let's finish with this. I got a question. I was listening to Dave Dufour and Mo Dakhil talk about this topic. If Tim Duncan was coming out now in Cooper Flagg's year, who would get drafted first, him or Cooper Flagg?
The problem is Cooper Flagg. Is he a shooter? I guess he's a shooter, right?
I think that the way that NBA teams think about drafting now, that Cooper would go first. Because first of all, you wouldn't know that Tim Duncan. I mean, he had a great college career, but you wouldn't absolutely know that Tim Duncan would become a top 10 player all time, right? If you were just going in by the draft, and then they would be like, "Oh, he's 4 years older." Cooper Flagg just had this.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. But don't forget, it wasn't that long ago that DeAndre Ayton went number 1.
Yeah, but those years add up, though. I mean, it's a different game even now, don't you think?
Yeah, but my point is DeAndre Ayton is like the Tim Duncan mold, right? Big guy, got some skills, whatever.
Tim Duncan was just Yeah, Tim Duncan was just way better, but yeah, you're right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, so in my mind, it's like they were still doing that up until 2019 or whatever that was when he got drafted. They were still trying to get the big man, whatever. When in reality, yeah, it's the Cooper Flags, it's the Kevin Durant's. That's the guy, the 6'9" guy who's long, who can shoot threes. That's the number one pick. That should be the number one pick. You know, the Luka is probably in that realm too, big ball handling, you know, guy like that. Versus, you know, the center who's going to grab rebounds, post up, and hardly ever. You know what I mean? Maybe play some defense. That's that you can find. So, you know, but yeah, I would imagine maybe by now, finally, they got the memo, right? Like this is what you want at the top of the draft. So yeah.
But then, you know, there's no for sure way, because then you could draft a unicorn type guy, and then, you know, the 4-year guy who had a great college career might be the guy that ends up good, like a Tim Duncan, you know? So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Tim Duncan's game in particular, obviously now it wouldn't be nearly as effective.
I'm sure he would adjust, because I feel like the greats would, but I definitely see what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, you would need somebody who could put the ball on the floor and drive, and, you know, I mean, you want that kind of variance in the game at that high of a draft pick. So, you know, I mean, I don't know if Tim Duncan's going to end up, you know, shot fake and, you know, 2 dribbles and laying it up, drives like that. You know, he was all face up and bank shots and post ups and high post a little bit, you know, like I don't know. I don't know if he would have adjusted well enough in that, you know, even body type wise. Now that said, maybe he wouldn't have developed that way now, and so he would be able to play it that way. So it's interesting for sure. So yeah, Cooper Flag's going to be great. His playmaking is something that probably is underrated right now.
His playmaking, his feel around the rim on offense, like he just grabs everything. And then defensively, he's a two-way. He's a for sure two-way guy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's exciting to see. I can't wait to what he's got to play 1 year.
It's Kevin Garnett-ish to me, I think.
Yeah, I could see that a little bit. Yeah, for sure. I mean, is he as tough as Kevin Garnett?
Yes. I mean, man, I'm not saying Kevin Garnett is not tough, but it's like all the rah-rah stuff. I mean, it's like, yes, they're both tough. There's a lot of tough people. You don't have to do all that stuff to be tough.
Fair enough. All right. Well, so you gotta get out of here. So we'll wrap this up again. We'll be back. I guess we'll be back next week. We'll see what's happening. I should be in town. I might be in New York, so we'll make something happen together if I can make that work. But thank you, Combo, for joining me, and thanks everyone out there for being part of the conversation for a little while.
Sounds great.
All right, and don't forget, sports fans, at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel, we're a conversation. You in? Are you in, Combo?